Words, they mean things. I'm Rhys. I'm presenting on this book, Making History. It was written by this British guy, Stephen Fry. He's a comedian, actor, and he's a real big activist, like gay rights and all that stuff, because he's gay. I'm not sure why that was necessary, but anyways, the book starts off about this young guy, Michael Young. Anyways, he's a graduate student at Cambridge, and he just wrote his, he just finished his 200,000 word doctoral thesis over the young life of Adolf Hitler. Oh, everybody's favorite German, just kidding. And he takes his paper to his professor, and his professor's like, dude, what the hell? This sucks. It's a novel, not a thesis. Because he got really mushy-gushy with the whole, like, Hitler's mom and, like, all the emotions and all that stuff. It wasn't really a professional paper. So his professor disregarded him and threw him out onto the street, where he lost all the pages into the wind, like that one book, Into the Wind. And then he meets this man, Professor Leo Zuckerberg, who is supposedly a Jew-ish professor. I didn't mean to say it like that, but he's a Jewish professor at Cambridge, and he's helping him pick up the papers, and he's like, whoa, Hitler, you know a lot about him. I'm interested. Can I read your thesis? The guy's like, sure, bro, go for it. So Leo and Michael Young start talking, and it turns out Leo Zuckerberg, the professor, is a physicist at the college, and he has in fact been working on a device known as the Temporal Imaging Machine, aka TIM. And TIM allows the user to look back upon events in time, and our professor Leo Zuckerberg would always look back on Auschwitz because his father was there. And I'm being interrupted right now. But he would always look back on his father, and he would feel some kind of guilt, and you could tell there was lots of emotions towards this, and it wasn't later until you understood why, because Leo Zuckerberg was actually Axel Bauer, son of the German medical doctor at Auschwitz that ran tests on all the Jews. And he felt great shame for this, and he wanted to make up for it. So what Leo Zuckerberg and Michael Young devised what they would do was send back some sterilization pills to the city in Bremen or something like that. Well, that was wherever Hitler grew up. And they sent it back to the well where Aloy, this man, stud right here, Hitler's father, would get his water. And after they did this, everything goes black. Michael wakes up in America. And everything's really different, but no one's heard of Hitler, so he thinks it's a good thing. But as he comes to find out, things are different, but also in a bad way. And I'll tell you why. It's because first thing he notices, it's illegal to be gay. There's no such thing as racial equality, or gender equality. So yeah, it's pretty bad. And what Michael finds out after like 400 pages of him in a library reading books, he finds out that this guy Rudolf Loder in Hitler's regiment ended up taking charge, basically becomes the new Hitler, and he's just much worse. Whenever Hitler passed the Nuremberg laws, it sent all the Jewish scientists over here, but Loder was smarter, and he was like, yo, they're geniuses, let me keep them around, let me help them, let me make them help me make the atom bomb. So Germany got to the atom bomb, they nuke Russia immediately, and take over the rest of Europe without any resistance. And it basically sets off into this huge Cold War between America, who finally gets the atom bomb years later, and Germany, which basically rules all of Europe. And then in the modern day, Michael Young's like, yo, this sucks. majorly. I need to get back to my old time because the grass is always greener on the other side. And he's also he gets back to his old time with the help of his supposed friend Steve Burns, who's been friends with him since in this new timeline since he was younger or whatever. And they were secret gay lovers. Very illegal in this time period. It is what it is. And then they meet the Professor Zuckerberg of this new timeline, convince him to help them, and they end up sending rats that are covered in maggots back to the same water supply that they sterilized so that no one would drink it. And then everything goes back to normal except Michael's favorite band is missing from the world, and he's really upset about that. But a knock comes on his door, and it is Steve Burns, the man whom he loved. Anyways, that's the conclusion of the summary of my books. And then what I wrote about for my topics and ideas was there's this huge idea of like love and the ability to love in the book. You know, Michael in the beginning, he has this girlfriend Jane, and he says multiple times how like he loved her, or at least he thought he loved her, but it just wasn't there, like there was no spark. And when he broke up with her, he couldn't tell if he was happy or relieved or sad. So like his relationship was merely more of a convenience and more of like a sexual manner, so that he didn't really have any feelings of attachment for her. But then, of course, later on in the book, he meets Steve, and they become real close, and they actually genuinely love each other. So, happy for them. And then, another topic that I discovered, or that I pursued in my research, was one of how, as a society, Germany especially, and the rest of the world, we demonize Adolf Hitler. And not to say that that's bad, because Hitler was a monster. He was an evil man. But we try to just shift the blame off ourselves, and it's kind of a cop-out, because it's one thing to say Adolf Hitler was a monster. Yeah, he was. He killed 6 million Jews. But at the same time, he had the full support of Germany and lots of people, because there was so much anti-Semitism at the time, and pan-Germanism, and everyone, like, he had support, and we all just kind of throw it on him and say, he's a bad guy, leave him over there, and we don't try and take any of the responsibility for the messed up time and the messed up beliefs in the 1940s that there were. And I think it's just a bit of a cop-out for humanity, and we need to acknowledge that. Then another topic that I pursued in my research was that of consequences of actions. Obviously, big consequence of killing off Adolf Hitler. There's a new guy that's even worse. He doesn't kill 6 million Jews. He rounds them all up, because he has control of all of Europe. Rounds them all up, puts them in Israel, I think, and calls it the Jewish Free State. But were they free? No. What he did was he found the well that had sterilized Hitler's father and many other men in that small town, and he had his scientists figure out a way to make a formula to replicate that. And what he did was sterilize all the Jews in this Jewish Free State, and he got rid of them in a single generation. So, a bit worse than Hitler, if you ask me. And I think the main reason that Stephen Fry, the author, chose like a fictional character like this to do something that bad was so that we could understand in part, you know, this is a character that we have no original feeling of hatred for. I mean, if I say the name Hitler and you actually think about it, everyone in this room hates him, right? But if you take a fictional character that you have no prior knowledge of, you don't hate him, he's just there. The first half of the book, there's lots of flashbacks before they kill off Hitler, and it's flashbacks of Hitler in the First War. And Rudy Loader, Rudy is what all his friends called him, everyone loved him. Like, he was just that stand-up guy, and he was real nice to everyone. He rose up through the ranks. He was just that perfect soldier. He was Billy Budd. Everyone loved him. But without Hitler's presence, well, actually, he was the same person either way, because one of the Jewish soldiers that was with him read his diary, and it was like, I'm going to write to upper command and tell him to send this guy to the front lines, how like they should all be fighting together, and hopefully with a little bit of help from me, he'll die in one day, and there'll be one less Jew on the face of the earth. And he was just saying like all kinds of anti-Semitic stuff like that, and how to gain popularity and amongst the soldiers, he contemplated killing a guy that snuck out to go retrieve a general's helmet that was stolen by the French. And the guy was coming back, and your boy Rudy Gloder was contemplating, yo, if I go kill this guy and come back, I'll be the hero. Luckily for him, guy was shot on the way back by a French sniper, so he didn't have to, but he would have. So I mean, this guy is a guy that we have no connection to, and we see him, and he's just as much of a monster, so I think it's easier for the reader to see that and take a more objective view of how it could have been anyone at the time, and how like it was more of a situational thing, that Hitler, you know, he was like greatest enemy or whatever, but it could have been like any number of people that were capable of that. Let's get him up there. Anyways, and I want to end on this point. Adolf Hitler. The thing we hate him for the most was what won us the war. That was his absolute hatred of the Jews, because if he hadn't originally passed the Nuremberg laws, Jewish Zionists wouldn't have come over to America to help us make the A-bomb. If he hadn't, at the end of the war, whenever he was losing, if he hadn't focused all of his efforts on wiping out as many Jews as possible at the time, then, you know, he might have been able to put up a stronger fight, and he might have been able to come back. We don't know. He was just a crazy son of a gun. And here's a few cute pictures of him. Thank you.
Woo!